On my left, just behind those curtains, we have a corridor. On your right, we have 2 staircases that are both used as emergency exits, as well as on my left, on the extreme end, we also have another staircase just next to the lift. Those are the 3 routes that we shall use in case, in the most unlikely event that we need to evacuate from this room. I also need to notify you that in and around the hotel, in all public spaces, we have surveillance cameras that are strictly used for security purposes only. I wish to repeat that at all public spaces within the hotel, we have surveillance cameras, but they are strictly used for security purposes. I also wish to notify you that we have heightened the police presence for security, and therefore whenever you are walking around and you see armed police, they are just here for protection, nothing out of the ordinary. Everything is under control, and we have our CCTV control room is monitored 24/7, and therefore we are able to tell if there is any danger and we need to notify you. We shall do that through the speakers that are just above you. Lastly, I also wish to request that we put on our badges at all times for ease of identification, so that we are able to note if any of the intruders is in our midst. I also wish to say this, unfortunate as it may sound, that sometimes whenever we have such a kind of a summit, some delegates lose their items, their valuables in form of laptops and phones. Therefore, I wish to request that you take care of your valuables, know who you are sitting next to, know if you can trust your valuables with them. If not, kindly make sure that they are safe and secure. Otherwise, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Robert. All right, may we now all rise for the national anthem.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
May we be seated. Good morning once again. My name is Israelai, and I am your MC for today and for the past 2 days, and for tomorrow as well. And it is my honor to welcome you to day 3 of the US-Africa Nuclear Energy Summit. And it is my honor as well to invite to the stage the Principal Secretary of the Kenya Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, State Department of Energy, Mr. Alex Wachira.
Excellencies, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Energy from Tanzania, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the US Africa Nuclear Energy Summit on Industry Readiness. The summit brings together US and Africa policymakers, technical experts, and industry leaders for a candid deliberations on critical issues looking into industry readiness as the African continent embraces nuclear power and other key applications. These deliberations are anchored on human and institutional capacity development, funding, financing, and supply chain in the nuclear technology application life cycle. Indeed, this summit stands as a testament to Kenya's commitment to advancing development of nuclear technology for electricity generation for a sustainable, low-carbon energy future. During this summit, that the continent is embarking on this journey of knowledge sharing, exploration, and collaboration. Energy security is now the driving issue in many countries as electricity prices rise dramatically around the world, and recent geopolitical events highlight the vulnerability of fossil fuel supply chains. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Kenya has ensured support to the development of nuclear power program by ensuring provision of the necessary human, institutional, and financial resources for the implementation of the program. The government acknowledges that the nuclear power program will ensure socio-economic transformation of the country. Kenya looks forward to technology breakthrough in a nuclear industry as industry players move from the drawing board to commercial reality and deliver projects as promised, especially the small modular reactors. In addition, a multinational framework to maintain, build skills, to nurture the next generation of nuclear subject matter experts through transfer of practical experience and knowledge through hands-on training in the course of challenging nuclear projects is needed in the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, Kenya, through the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, assures of its continued support toward the successful implementation of the first nuclear power plant by the year 2034, as well as the nuclear research reactor project by the year 2030. Finally, I would like to call upon all the stakeholders to participate actively and openly in the US-Africa Nuclear Energy Summit and for its success. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex Wachira. Now, I'd also want to invite to the stage a Special Assistant to President Biden for Climate Policy, Finance and Innovation with the White House Climate Policy Office, Honorable Nana Menya Ayensu.
Thank you very much, and good morning, USANES.
Good morning.
There we go, okay. So, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that this is my first visit to Nairobi, but I am extremely delighted to be here. And I'm extremely delighted to be here under these, for this auspicious event. So greetings from the Biden-Harris administration. First, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Alicia and the U.S. Department of Energy team and all the organizers. And also to our Kenyan hosts, I'd like to say asante sana. Can we join me in giving all the organizers a huge round of applause? You know, I want to share a little bit about why I'm so excited about this. So my conviction and kind of my message for today actually has roots also in the company. So my grandfather, the late Dr. E.L. Porty, was the head of Ghana's Ulster River Authority, overseeing the development of their two first and biggest hydroelectric projects. Now, those projects have been running without fall essentially since the 60s. And they are such tremendous examples of the engineering excellence, ingenuity, skill in Africans owning, developing, and building large energy infrastructure. And of course, that's not all. Whether it's the Akosombo hydrogen project in Libya, or the Lake Turkana wind farm right here. When I look at the amazing examples that are out here, and I think about Africans stepping into nuclear, one thing is absolutely clear to me. That is that Africans can do this. And lots of African countries and the U.S. are actually at a very similar moment in time, facing very similar challenges. We're all have electricity needs that are outstripping our infrastructure. Whether it's looking for more ways to power our manufacturing growth, attract more foreign direct investments, grow the economy at a record pace, also reduce exposure to foreign exchange and commodity price fluctuations. Then on a more basic level, illuminating textbooks for all of our kids to read, and keeping our medicines cool and our food fresh. The importance of electricity. But we also know that we need to do that and meet that fast-growing demand while also aggressively curbing our carbon emissions and protecting our precious environments as well. And on this front, Africans have been doing large carbon-free projects since even before it was cool to do so. But to me, and I think to many of you, the opportunity is much bigger than just thinking about how to deploy some nuclear plants. This is about unlocking a new African nuclear energy industry. We know that this is the best way to multiply the economic return on investments. In nuclear, each project creates many thousands of construction jobs and maintains thousands of high-paying jobs, operating and maintaining the plant for many decades thereafter. And for every job that gets created in the industry, you see that there are at least 4 to 5 others that get created indirectly, not to mention many more in the surrounding society. And as we reflect, I think we all have seen projects that have been built here, that they all look very attractive on the one side. We often find that there are hidden costs in some of those projects that come back to bite us later on. And even more so than that, I know, we've seen in Ghana, we've seen in many other places, where a project gets built, but you don't see the corresponding local capacity that gets built in the course of building that project. If foreign workers are brought in, all foreign firms are brought in, and so on, you don't get that multiplier. You don't get that skills transfer, and you don't see the things that put those companies, those workers, in position to win the next project. We see a path where Africans are integral to building that industry. Whether it's building local supply chains, getting ownership in the development, shaping the course of the industry, and of course, when you use it, you can create far more value. And companies that are involved in these projects, they can put it on their websites. We know that they can put it on websites, use that to win the next projects. And we know that doesn't just affect their ability to be successful in that industry, in a field or projects that are as multidisciplinary as nuclear projects. That also helps in so many other industries and so on as well. And to be clear, this isn't just rhetoric. We do this ourselves in the U.S. So as some of you may know, we've had, I guess, two of our major big spending laws, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act, the latter of which just turned 2 a few weeks ago. When it was passed, it was hailed as the biggest climate investment in history. Now, while initially kind of seen as a climate law, people are talking about it now in actually very different terms. You look at like the press now and how people are talking about it, and also how ordinary citizens are experiencing it. This is really much more about a job that, this is really more about a law that is rooted not just in climate policy, it is rooted in industrial policy, in economic policy, and in labor policy, in job creation. We've seen just in the past 2 years, we've seen $265 billion of investment in clean energy and hundreds of thousands of jobs created. And creating jobs in communities that may historically have been left behind, and creating pathways for new jobs, and for new for entrepreneurs to inject themselves into the system. And that is having an outsized effect on the economy and so on. And we've seen that this kind of economic development pathway has worked really well for us, and it's been a very unique way in which we've gone about it. We know it's worked well for us, and we believe that that kind of vision will work well for you all too. So in closing, we know that when it comes to nuclear, we know that Africans can do it. And we are extremely excited for the path that Africa will chart into new nuclear. And I can say that the U.S. is thrilled to be your partner in this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nana Yesu. Now, I also want to invite up here Professor Shaukat Abdulrazak. He's the Director for the Division of Africa with the International Atomic Energy Agency. A round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, let me bring you greetings from the Director General, DG Grossi of International Atomic Energy Agency. I also want to recognize the presence of the Deputy Prime Minister from Tanzania, Your Excellency. Also, the presence of PS, Mr. Alex Ushira, PS Energy and Petroleum in the Ministry. Honorable Nana Menya Ayensu, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to join my colleague to thank Alicia for this excellent arrangement here, and also to thank the government of Kenya for hosting this extraordinary event. We meet at a pivotal moment for the nuclear sector. In all regions, policy makers and energy planners are looking to nuclear energy to combat climate change, provide energy security, and put us on path to equitable economic and rapid transformation to net zero. Globally, nuclear power provides about 10 to 11% of our electricity consumption. However, Africa uses very little nuclear power, only about 0.5% of the world's total. In fact, South Africa is the only African country that uses nuclear energy. But as I said yesterday, we are on the right trajectory in the sense that quite a number of African countries now have shown interest and they are embarking on nuclear power programs. From the IEA, we know that at least 12 have shown that interest, and we are working with them. For Africa, access to energy is a key prerequisite in the achievement of its economic and social transformation objective. Over 600 million people across the continent lack access to reliable electricity services. Africa faces many challenges in accelerating its development due to limited infrastructure and energy access. To overcome this, the continent needs not only to find faster ways to implement solutions, but also to strengthen key pillars like financing, technology, and skills supporting policy making and regional collaboration. At the same time, Africa must also consider increasing convergence of energy and the climate change mitigation objectives at the global level, which calls for a radical shift towards low carbon energy sources. For any member states that requires assistance in safe, reliable and sustainable use of nuclear power, the IEA provides the support. And sometimes, as we say to the member states, when you're engaging different vendors, just know that IAEA is your consultant. And we're here to provide the necessary technical support in various sort of forms in terms of capacity building, training, and also we have several missions, like what we normally call the inner missions, that will be able to inform you the status of your development as far as nuclear power program is concerned. So we offer guidelines on development, the necessary infrastructure for the safe, secure, sustainable nuclear power program. We also help our member states in applying what we normally call the milestone approach. But also at the International Atomic Energy Agency, we have the international project on the innovative and nuclear reactor and fuel cycle, what we normally call INPRO, which supports our member states on long-term planning and collaboration on innovations in reactors, fuel cycles, and institutional approach to that institutional approach that promotes sustainable development of nuclear energy. We are pleased that there is now interest in small modular reactors due to its attractive attributes, including lower upfront capital cost, economic competitiveness based upon modulation, reduction, construction time, and serial manufacturing and flexibilities in siting, operation, and non-electric applications. Over 40 IAEA member states have expressed interest, and quite a number of them are also from Africa. Many member states and other stakeholders have requested the agency's support related to all aspects of small modular reactor development, deployment, and oversight. To respond to this request, the IAEA platform on small modular reactors and the application was established with the purpose of coordinating the agency's activities on SMRs, while providing focal point for member states and other stakeholders requesting assistance. But also we provide other services when it comes to energy planning, and we have various tools that have been used. One example that I want to give it to you is we partnered with NEPAD, Africa Union Commission, and now we were able to assist them to come up with a master plan on energy planning for the continent. At the moment, the IEA provides support to 49 member states in Africa in various thematic areas such as health, as I said yesterday, in areas of diagnosis and treatment of cancer, agriculture, soil improvement, but of course, as the theme of this meeting here, we also provide the support towards development of nuclear power programs. And we do this at national level, where we have bilateral meetings with member states. We do it at the regional level, where African countries do come together. They're able to share ideas, information, and they have a common understanding when it comes to different thematic areas of use of nuclear energy in their respective member states. But also, we have the interregional project that cuts across the entire IAEA member states. And this is a modality of where African countries are also able to learn from other regions, and so that we can minimize reinventing of the wheel. To conclude my remarks, I want to acknowledge that our goals are ambitious, but they are in fact achievable. The need across Africa are great, but we continue to work together and we commit ourselves to this work. There is no reason we cannot harness the power of nuclear energy to power our economies sustainably, simultaneously lifting millions out of poverty while other mitigating the effect of climate change. The demand for energy is only increasing. The efforts is only increasing, and most forms of stable energy production release greenhouse gas as byproducts. We must utilize sustainable energy sources if we want to continue to grow our economies. So nuclear energy must be part of the equation. It is only low carbon and scalable energy source available today that can provide electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, making it an alternative option to reliable power provided by fossil fuel. As the IEA Director General said at the COP28 last year, net zero needs nuclear power. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Shekhar Abdul-Razak. Today is a very historic day, and we're going to witness the signing of a very historic agreement. And before that, while Professor Abdul-Razak was speaking, he introduced one of the people here, one of the very important people here. But I want to introduce or acknowledge him again. So if you could stand so we get to all see him. His Excellency Wael Shoshen, Vice Minister, Industry, Mines and Energy for Tunisia. Vice, we acknowledge you. Thank you. And I also want to invite to the stage Honorable Dr. Doto Mashaka Biteko, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Energy for Tanzania. A round of applause for him, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mr. Alex Wachira, the Principal Secretary, Minister of Energy and Petroleum, our host from Kenya. Honorable Nana Menya Nyasu, Special Assistant to the President on Climate Policy from the US. Honorable Ministers here present. Professor Shaukat Abdul-Razak, Director for the Division of Africa International Atomic Energy Agency. Members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. I feel honored and privileged to address this important meeting, the second US-Africa Summit on Nuclear Power Development. I would like to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to the government of the United States of America, the International Atomic Agency, and the government of the Republic of Kenya for convening this significant gathering here today. We commend this partnership with it is not only imperative for the energy sector, but also for the entire continent of Africa. We believe that the insights gained at the outcome of this summit will be an instrumental in advancing the development of the nuclear power in Africa as a continent, despite its significant resource endowment, has not yet fully harnessed the potential of the nuclear energy in the continent. Distinguished guests, about 600 million people and 10 million small businesses in Africa have no access to reliable electricity. This challenge is further compounded by the fact that electricity demand in Africa is growing twice as fast as the global average, driven by the urgent need of industrialization to meet our socio-economic priorities. The energy sector is the subject to be discussed. Not only the climate change that has impacted the performance of most of our traditional energy resources, resulting into reducing electric power generation from these resources. Again, this meeting is very important. In my own country, Tanzania, the annual power demand is growing by 10 to 15% per annum. To meet our development goals, we plan to increase our installation generation capacity from the current status to 10,000 megawatts by 2030. Our commitment to regional power integration through the Eastern African Power Pool and the SADC Power Pool, and eventually the continental-wide grid interconnection, present a significant opportunity to exploit our energy resource, including the nuclear. We remain optimistic that the nuclear energy will be a viable option for our future. Therefore, promoting alternative energy resources with the nuclear power being particularly promising is essential for addressing this challenge. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, I see the theme of this summit, that is strengthening Africa industry through the nuclear power. It's both timely and essential for all of us to come with tangible plans that will ensure reliable, sustainable, and diversified, clean, and climate resilient power resource for the continent of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding nuclear as not only an alternative energy source, but also an environmental friendly energy, is crucial and sustainable for future to enable the continent to reduce the carbon emission by using this clean energy. Unlike fossil fuel, nuclear power generates vast amount of energy with minimum greenhouse gas emission, with the essential of combating climate change at large. Ladies and gentlemen, by realizing the importance of nuclear energy, the government of Tanzania, under the able leadership of Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, has provided active implementing measures to assess and eventually exploit our nuclear resource. We are committed to create enabling environment for nuclear electricity generation, including developing policies, legal frameworks on uranium resource and nuclear electricity generation, human capacity building, nuclear power technology, and other related matters are issues that we are looking at so that we can exploit the resource available. Those efforts will support the exploitation of nuclear resource and also open new avenues for applying nuclear technology in medicine, agriculture, and energy. Distinguished guests, our commitment to nuclear power is also reflected in our national energy policy, power system master plan, renewable energy strategy, the mineral development policy. This document recognizes nuclear as a source of energy and a key component in meeting the Tanzania future energy needs. However, given the complexity of nuclear technology and our current limitation in financial and human capital, we call for strategic partners that are essential to overcome these challenges. This summit provides an invaluable opportunity for Tanzania and the rest of Africa to learn from each other and develop concrete solutions for advancing the nuclear power. We pledge our commitment to cooperate with the United States of America and other African nations and development partners to ensure that nuclear power becomes an integral part of our energy mix. In conclusion, I wish again to express Tanzania's deep appreciation for the ongoing support of our strategic partners in advancing nuclear power development through technical cooperation. Tanzania reaffirms its commitment to upholding international obligations, ensuring the peaceful, safe, and secure use of nuclear energy for power generation. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you to Dr. Biteko. Next up, we'll take a ministerial statement from Honorable Collins Adamako Mensah, who's the Deputy Minister for Energy for Ghana. A round of applause.
Good morning. Let me also say thank you to the organizers for this wonderful program. Last year was hosted in Ghana, and I'm happy to be here. This is my first time in Kenya. I was surprised when I arrived in Kenya, and the weather was very, very cold. But when I got here, I realized the MC was from Ghana, Mr. Israelite. And I just listened to Honorable Ayensu, who traces his roots to Ghana. And so I'm very comfortable now. Yesterday, I listened very carefully to the panel discussion. Dr. Lassimo, who is a neighbor from Burkina Faso, kept mentioning Ghana during his presentation. And let me say, my chief director was wonderful. Please give her a round of applause. Deputy Prime Minister of Tanzania, ministers, colleague ministers of states, I bring you greetings from the Ministry of Energy of the Republic of Ghana. And Ghana is pleased to be part of the second United States of America African Nuclear Energy Summit, Nairobi, Kenya. Today, we will be witnessing the advancements of the nuclear energy cooperation between the United States of America and the Republic of Ghana through the signing of this cooperation agreement between Nuclear Power Ghana and the Requiem Technology Group. Ladies and gentlemen, energy is the heartbeat of every economy, and it's important that the African continent has enough of it to support economic and social development and to enhance the welfare of its citizenry. Since 2005, Ghana has taken careful steps in the quest to include nuclear power in our energy mix as a pathway of Ghana's energy transition. On 13 September 2023, U.S. Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for International Security and Non-Proliferation, Amganza, joined Ghanaian counterparts to announce further U.S. support for establishing Ghana as a small modular nuclear reactor regional training hub and center of excellence for the sub-Saharan African region. The production of adequate electrical power through clean base load technology, such as nuclear, will serve as a strong backbone for the West African power pool. Hence, the introduction of nuclear power Ghana is a win-win situation, and it provides the vendor the opportunity to explore the West African electricity market as well. Signing of this cooperation agreement between Nuclear Power Ghana and Requiem Technology for the adoption of new-scale nuclear technology in an industrial enclave is a milestone achievement on Ghana-US cooperation for the peaceful use of atomic energy. Long live the fruitful cooperation between Ghana and the United States of America. I thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable. I'm keeping you here because I'm going to invite others to come and join you, so please hold on. So can I also have up here the signatories for this historic signing that's going to be happening, or signatories and witnesses. So I want to have Saladin Ameri, the CEO of Regnum Technology Group. Can I have you come up, please? A round of applause as he makes his way. I would also want to have on stage Dr. Stephen Yamwa from Nuclear Power Ghana. A round of applause to him as well. And as for Honorable Colin Saduma comments, I already have him here with me. And then I'd also want to have on stage Ambassador Bonnie Jenkins. And Chief Director Wilhelmina Asamoah from the Ministry of Energy Ghana. Then Donald Hoffman, kindly join us on stage as well. Donald Hoffman. And then Alicia Duncan. So before that, I'm going to cede the podium and invite Ambassador Jenkins, Bonnie Jenkins, Undersecretary for Arms Control and International Security to the U.S. Department of State, to come give us some remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am very thrilled to be here today to celebrate a major milestone in the U.S.-Ghana Civil Nuclear Partnership. The signing of this agreement between Nuclear Power Ghana and Regnum Technology Group, based on NuScale power technology, will position Ghana to lead on the development of small modular reactors in Africa, establish itself as a supply chain hub, and catalyze economic development and jobs creation in the region. Small modular reactors stand out as a transformative technology that can meet a range of needs. Using a small land footprint and scalable size, they can jumpstart clean, reliable energy access for today's industries, hospitals, and schools. They can drive economic development by providing the backbone for industrial activities, clean fuels production, and technological advancements. We are very excited with the promise of these technologies for building a more sustainable future. So congratulations to all those who have worked so hard to bring us this amazing agreement and for providing a pathway to a prosperous future in Ghana and the region. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. We would also have some remarks from the Deputy Minister of Energy for Ghana.
Well, thank you. And in order not to be repetitive, I must say that this discussion started some 3 years ago, and we are signing this agreement on the basis of equity and mutual benefits. It's very important that I make this very, very clear. It is on the basis of equity and mutual benefits to both countries. Thank you very much.
believe you hold up the agreements and then we'll take some photographs. Quickly get rid of the furniture so we can see you really well.
So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Director General Bill Magwood. And it is a distinct pleasure for me because he is the actual reason that we are all sitting in this room today. So you've heard the name Alicia multiple times, but it was DG Magwood at his position as the Director of Nuclear Energy that hired me into the nuclear energy space. And, okay, that's not what I'm clapping for, but thank you. He's got bad judgment, as does Rita Barronwall and Mike Goff, who are also bosses, previous and current. But it is DG Magwood who introduced me into this space, and more importantly, by example, made me a champion, gave me a voice, and dared me to use it. He is a man among men. And so when I introduce him, it matters not what positions he's had. What matters is that he is a leader in a sector that is hungry, thirsty, and desperate for more leadership. I am so grateful that he is always a supporter, that he is always an amazing example, and that he is remaining my mentor and friend. I would ask that you welcome Director General Bill Magwood to the stage.
Turned it off. Good morning. Well, I'm almost afraid to say anything after that introduction. Well, let me begin by thanking Alicia. Alicia, thank you for permitting things. But Alicia and the team for working so hard to put this event together. It's a fantastic event and a very important event for a variety of reasons. Let me also thank our Kenyan host, particularly Nupia, for welcoming us so completely. It's been a real honor to be here, and like our Ghani, this is my first time in Kenya. I was supposed to come a few years ago, but there's this little thing about a pandemic that got in the way. But finally here, and very pleased to be here. And I can tell you that it will certainly not be my last time visiting with you. The principal reason I'm here is because the world has changed in a very, very substantial way. And I'm not sure how many people realize it, but we've reached a juncture in the history of this world. And the future is going to be dictated by a couple of key factors. The success or failure of economies, societies, and countries, in my view, will depend on two things. It'll depend on people who are trained, people who are motivated, people who are enabled. And it's also going to depend on electricity, and I use that term very specifically. People and electricity. Those are going to be the two factors that will determine the success of economies around the world. If you don't have trained people, you will not be successful. If you don't have electricity, reliable, cost-effective electricity, your economies will not prosper. In that context, we are also in the middle of a fight against climate change. In countries around the world, they're struggling to find a path to maintain their access to reliable electricity while dealing with the climate crisis. And I suspect there are probably policymakers and leaders around the world, perhaps in past decades, that actually thought this was going to be relatively straightforward. Build some wind turbines, put up some solar panels, be a bit more efficient, drive an electric vehicle, problem solved. Not so much. Countries I work with, we're on a path that focused principally on just having more renewables and energy efficiency to deal with the climate crisis. But as they were asked to be more specific about how their plans are going to reach net zero by 2050, they found that the numbers weren't converging. They weren't reaching net zero. In fact, in many cases, emissions were going up. That's why in COP28, you saw 25 leaders come together and declare a need to triple nuclear capacity. This wasn't a surprise to us. This was actually quite expected because we've been working with countries that had come to this conclusion. And we're changing policies. In fact, in some cases, completely reversing policies to build new nuclear. And this is taking place around the world. Nuclear is in the rise. Both small modular reactors and existing technologies, I believe, will be absolutely essential to meeting the climate crisis and perhaps more importantly, providing energy security for countries around the world. Now at this point, I want to talk honestly with you. But before I begin, maybe I should just find out, are there any Africans in the room? Would you raise your hands, please? Are there any Africans? I don't see too many hands. No? Okay, there's a few out there. The rest of you just get out, okay? I'm not talking to you at this point. We've heard the numbers, about 640 million people without access to reliable electricity in Africa. First time I heard that number was last year. And for me personally, I found it to be a devastating thing to hear. To think that this continent, at this stage in history, in the 21st century, has that many people. They can't turn a light on so the children can study. They can't pump water. It seems tragic. Well, it's even more tragic is when you recall another number I heard last year, which is by 2050, that 1/4 of all humanity will be African. If these trends continue as we are today, it's a global catastrophe. It affects not just people in Africa, it affects everyone around the world. We absolutely can't sit by and allow this to happen. So leaders, ministers who are here today, who have talked about the need for transitioning your economies and your energy infrastructures, I thank you and I congratulate you. Because your leadership will be important to make sure that that darker future is not realized. Now, I stand here as not an African, not an expert in Africa. In fact, this is only my 4th time on the continent. So as I talk to you as an American living in Paris, who runs an international organization, who is learning, and who hopes to learn a great deal more from you as we go forward. But I will tell you that as I have talked to my colleagues in countries around the world, and perhaps even more interesting, as I've talked to people in Africa who are not in this business, but who are just normal people, the perceptions, when I say nuclear in Africa, they say, why? Why would you do that? And what are the perceptions? You know the perceptions, I'm going to tell you out loud because I think it's important to put it on the table. Africa's too poor to have nuclear energy. And of course, Africa is poor. There are many people who live in poverty in Africa. We see it every day. Africa is too politically unstable. Well, okay. Yes, there are parts of Africa where we do have political instability. One thing that I heard, and I heard this just at a dinner just last week from a lady in Africa, an African lady, a Kenyan lady. Africa is too corrupt to have nuclear energy. These are your perceptions. She told me a story about how trash is taken from her area and dumped illegally on the ground someplace. Corruption, people are not responsible. How can we run nuclear power plants? That is the perception both outside Africa and inside Africa. Those are realities, those perceptions that you have to deal with. So that's why people say, why Africa? Why is this important? Why would you do this? To me, you always have to take the step back. I've always been interested in history, so I do a lot of reading. And history shows you truth. You think when the United States started doing nuclear power that everybody that ran nuclear power plants were experts? They were not. Most of the people that ran the first nuclear power plants in the U.S. were people who had run coal plants the year before. They were learning with everybody else. They were not experts. They didn't have refinements. The regulator was nowhere near as proficient as it is today. Think about Korea. I know that Kenya works very closely with Korea. The year I was born, Korea was one of the poorest, lowest capacity countries on the planet. They looked completely hopeless. But they made a determination to invest in their people. And over the course of generations, not that many, because it's only been about 50, 60 years, they are now one of the leading economies in the world and a leading supplier of nuclear technology. They didn't get there the easy way, they worked for it. So when people tell you that Africa is in these terrible positions, some of that may be true today, but it's not necessarily true for the future. A lot of these perceptions aren't even completely accurate. Yes, there are countries in Africa that have political issues. We all know that. But many of the countries here today, perhaps all the countries here today, are very, very stable democracies that have had peaceful handover of government. Even my own home country had our issues. Everybody has issues. In France today, they can't even form a government. So these things are perceptions. In Africa today, there are very, very proficient experts. We see them all the time. I have visited Kenya. I visit facilities. They are as well run as any facilities in the United States. And there are people in this room who are as expert and motivated and proficient in their jobs as anyone in an OECD country. Like all of you, where's Winnie? Winnie, where are you? Winnie, stand up here. I would bring Winnie to any... Winnie would be a success in any organization in the US, in France, in Japan, anywhere else. And there are a lot of Winnies in Africa. So why not Africa? You have people. Is Africa poor? Of course Africa's poor. You know, the GDP of Kenya is about the same as Bulgaria. And when Bulgaria says it's going to build nuclear power plants, nobody blinks. Perception. The reality is that if Africa doesn't take this step, that dark future I talked about, with hundreds of millions of people continuing to not have electricity, continuing not to have a hopeful future, that will continue unless a change is made. Why not Africa? People are an asset. You have people. Use that asset. And we can help you with that. You heard my friend Chappelle talk about how the IEA supports. We need more of that. And that's largely why I'm here. I work for the Nuclear Energy Agency. And most of you don't know much about the NEA because we haven't been here. The NEA was created after the Second World War, and its specific purpose was to bring countries together that wanted to exploit nuclear technology to the benefit of societies and do it by cooperating with each other. And this formula has been successful for about 65 years. For 65 years, countries like the US and France, Switzerland, Japan, Korea, Argentina come together, share knowledge, and work together to create new knowledge. The question I have today is, why can't we do the same thing in Africa? The answer is, there's no reason why we can't do it in Africa. And in fact, that's what I propose to see us do together. The NEA is launching an initiative that we call our Common Journey. Now, our Common Journey is called that because just as countries like Ghana and Kenya and Rwanda and others are now laying the groundwork to build new nuclear power plants, they start from a place that's very similar to many of the members of my organization within the OECD. Even countries that have nuclear power plants, let's say the Netherlands, for example, they haven't built a nuclear power plant in 30 plus years. So the infrastructure and ministries and regulators and industry are really no more developed than they are in many countries in Africa. So we're all growing together. That's why it's a common journey. So what is this going to be? It's really an effort to build cooperation. That's what the NEA does. We are about building cooperation. So what we propose to do is to create cooperative frameworks within Africa among ministries, regulators, industry, universities, to do the sorts of things that we do at the NEA. And initially we'll focus on 4 key areas. Most important, I think, is to build expertise and knowledge at the ministerial level, and at policymaker levels. That's going to be essential to make the right decisions in the right way. There are many ways to deploy nuclear power in a country. You can certainly put out a contract and have someone come in and build a nuclear power plant for you. But if you don't do it the right way, you will not achieve the full benefit. Done the right way, and we want to give you a very good example, is our friends in the United Kingdom as they build Hinkley Point C. They have used the opportunity to build this plant to create hundreds of small businesses, ostensibly to support the project, but once those businesses are created, they're off in the global market. And thousands of young people, trainees, welders, and some of which PhDs. To support the project, sure, but after that, they're off in the market. Once you're a welder, you're always a welder. Once you're an electrical engineer, you're always an electrical engineer. There's no reason why we can't do that here. Ministerial staffs, policymakers, once understanding that, can start to put together with policies that will maximize the benefits of having a nuclear program. We also want to emphasize a very, very important factor, stakeholder engagement. It's an area of expertise within the NEA. We spend a lot of time on this. And there's a lot of very, very hard lessons learned in OECD countries on stakeholder engagement. We can share that information and share the training. And I've already invited some of my Kenyan colleagues to join us for training courses the NEA puts on. There are very expert training courses which I think will benefit you a great deal. This program will also emphasize the need to focus on gender. This is a weak spot for us across the nuclear sector. We did a survey just last year that showed that only about 20% of all the technical staff across our member countries are female. That's embarrassing. And the barriers put up against women in countries across the world have to come down. And we have put together policies to try to do that. And those policies have been formally adopted by the OECD. So we're ready to share that with you as well. The final area of emphasis is building human capacity. There's a lot of programs and activities going on around the world, but the one thing we want to emphasize is taking advantage of the structures that we have in place to bring universities around the world together to solve problems together. And we want to invite African universities to join that activity. To me, this is a real opportunity. I go to universities around the world, and I talk to students around the world, and there's many students who may still be with us here who are interested in the future, they want to build the future, they want to make the world a better place, they just need the opportunities. And these kinds of programs can help do that. We're in the process of completing a memorandum of understanding with the African Union, and we'll use that as a basis to begin building these lines of cooperation. We'll work with all of you on both a Pan-African and a regional basis to move this forward. We will also work very closely with our friends at the IAEA. Director General Grossi and I have had a conversation about this, and Chakot and I have had a conversation about this. There are areas where we can work together. It's absolutely essential that the resources that we have are not overlapping or are not duplicative, but are instead reinforcing each other, and we will make sure that happens. We will also work very closely with member countries, particularly the United States, which has been so interested in working with Africa, such as we just saw here today. Because our effort is designed to maximize the possibilities in the future. We're not doing it because we want to be recognized or we want to be popular. We're doing it because we think the time is right. This is the moment in history that I think we will all remember. And in my view, if we don't do something, if we don't take action, I don't want to be the person looking back 30 years from now, assuming I'm still around, and thinking the world's in a horrible position, and only if in 2024, if only we had done more, if only we had taken an extra step, if only we had worked a little harder, it could have been different. Let's not look back and regret that we didn't take action today. Let's look back and say, this is where it started. This is where Africa became a part of the global community of nuclear. Because in many respects, being part of that global community of nuclear is really what this is all about. Unlike any other industry that you can name, nuclear brings disciplines. Nuclear brings structure. Nuclear brings technology. The lady that was worried about trash being disposed of, people learn disciplines in nuclear that spread throughout the system. You improve your whole society by having nuclear power because of the discipline and the training that comes from it. So that's what we're here to share with you. So again, I thank you for your attention. I look forward to working with all of you. The time is now. We are here. We are not going to leave. And you're going to see a lot more of us at the NEA as time goes on. And you'll see enough of me personally to get sick of seeing me over the time. In conclusion, let me just say, again, thank you for welcoming us so warmly here in Kenya. I look forward to visiting many of the other countries in Africa over the coming year or so as we move forward with this initiative. But again, we do so humbly because we need your advice, we need your support, and we need your hard work and your sweat and your blood and your tears. Because without your cooperation, without your work, none of this will work, none of this will happen. But to the degree you're willing to do that, we stand with you. Why not Africa? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director General Mark Wood. I would want to have on stage for an industry perspective of all that's going on, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the United States Nuclear Energy Council, Todd Abrajano. Round of applause.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again, and thank you to Alicia and her team, as well as the folks here in Kenya who put this on. It's an incredible summit so far. You know, it's a pleasure to be back in Africa, and specifically back here in Nairobi for the second U.S.-African Nuclear Energy Summit. It was a little over 6 years ago when I first visited Kenya as a representative of the United States government, and I'm thrilled to be back now as a representative of the private sector U.S. nuclear industry. There have been some excellent presentations and discussions in the workshops during the past couple of days, and I hope most of you have been here to hear those. Today and tomorrow, I look forward to even more insights from this great lineup of speakers, as well as learning more about the extraordinary opportunities before us. This is indeed an extraordinary time to be in the nuclear energy industry. For many years, nuclear energy has struggled just to maintain its place in the energy mix in countries with existing nuclear plants, such as in Europe, North America, and East Asia. But now, the situation has changed dramatically and continues to change. This is true both in the United States and in Africa, but for different reasons. Only a few years ago, in the United States, we were working just to keep existing reactors on the grid. Today, for the most part, that danger has passed. Reactors under threat of closure are staying open. Some that will close are even slated to reopen. And there are a growing number of plans to build new nuclear facilities. In the U.S., we are seeing this surging demand for new nuclear for many reasons. But I want to focus on 3 of them today. First, we are seeing interest from new customers such as data centers and industrial facilities. Second, we are seeing more government support at the state level to ensure households and businesses have clean, reliable power. And third, the U.S., like other international markets across the globe, recognizes that we cannot achieve 2050 net zero decarbonization goals without including new nuclear builds as a significant part of the mix. As a result, there is a flood of activity in the U.S. nuclear energy sector with a drive toward building new plants. So let's look at my first reason for increased demand in the U.S. As technical companies build new data centers to power artificial intelligence and other power-hungry activities, there is new demand for reliable, carbon-free power, which nuclear plants are best at providing. Meanwhile, major industrial end users like oil, gas, and chemical companies, as well as steel and cement producers, have begun seriously considering nuclear and have launched demand aggregation efforts to build order books for new nuclear power plant projects. Some advanced nuclear technologies operate at high temperatures, making them very good at industrial applications like producing hydrogen or ammonia. Their high temperature operation makes them good at replacing coal plants as well, because they can sometimes use the same turbine and infrastructure. Turning to the second main reason for increased U.S. demand for new nuclear, several U.S. states have begun to offer incentives or have set aside placeholders in their budgets for the nuclear industry. For example, the governor of my state, of Virginia, recently signed a bill to accelerate the development of small modular reactors, or SMRs, in the state, with plans to have at least one built by 2030. There are also plans for new SMRs next to an existing plant in Washington state, with some support from the state legislature. Meanwhile, officials in the state of Texas are working to attract new nuclear projects with plans underway for universities in the state and at other sites across Texas as well. The recent activity at the state level is on top of the strong support from the U.S. federal government, which through the Department of Energy is supporting several demonstration projects across the country. These include the TerraPower project in Wyoming, X-Energy's project with Dow Chemical in Texas, and many others. It is well known that new nuclear designs must prove themselves competitive on cost with other energy sources. To do that, it makes sense and reduces risk to build the first of a kind in an experienced, well-established nuclear country such as the United States before exporting to other countries. The objective is that you can achieve cost reductions once you get to an nth-of-a-kind reactor and have built up a local workforce and fleshed out local supply chains where this is practical to achieve. U.S. nuclear companies have seen this start to happen already and are ready for the same to happen again in the future because the opportunities across the globe are real. The last main reason for increasing demand is that in the U.S. and around the world, so many countries have recognized that building new nuclear facilities is essential to meeting net zero goals. It provides carbon-free power around the clock and is not dependent on specific geography like hydropower could be, for example. This realization was made clear last year at COP28, when the United States, along with nearly 24 other countries, pledged a tripling of global nuclear capacity by 2050. Organizations like the International Energy Agency project that we will need a massive expansion of nuclear energy to meet our climate goals. Indeed, the IAEA's latest annual report on nuclear energy around the world, published just last week, noted that at the end of 2023, there were 59 reactors under construction. These span 17 countries and will add 61 gigawatts to world capacity once operational. Recent events, unfortunately, have highlighted the importance of nuclear energy to energy security. In addition to its climate benefits, nuclear provides a reliable source that keeps several years of fuel on site, making countries less vulnerable to imported fuel from other countries. The energy security aspect has prompted European countries, such as Belgium and the Netherlands, to revisit their energy mix and re-emphasize nuclear. The same thinking means that plans for new reactors are progressing in countries such as Poland, the Czech Republic, the United Kingdom, Romania, and more. The same is true in Asia for Japan and South Korea, and as we all know, China. Which brings us, of course, to Africa, the reason we're all here for this conference. As I said earlier, things are changing here too. Africa, of course, has had nuclear power for a long time. April of this year marked the 40th anniversary of the first South African plant at Coburg connecting to the grid. Since then, both reactors at that site have run efficiently and effectively, delivering huge quantities of clean power to a country which otherwise relies heavily on coal. But this continent now finds itself at the forefront of the world's nuclear resurgence. Across Africa, partly driven by the emergence of SMR technology, making nuclear more accessible to a wider range of nations, we are seeing great interest in nuclear. The World Nuclear Association lists all the countries considering, planning, or starting nuclear power programs, and Africa has more than any other continent. From countries like Algeria, Morocco, and Egypt in the north, through Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Rwanda, and others, down to countries such as Namibia in the south. If this growth continues, we will need to ensure global supply chains are built up and ready to handle the ramp up in the new builds we expect to see over the next several decades. This supply chain will not just be in the US and Europe. There will be opportunities for many other countries as well. This growth will also require specialized training and overall workforce development. We need to do more globally to ensure we have a suitably skilled and suitably extensive workforce to keep up with the demand. The recent experience of the UAE showed us all how nuclear can be successfully delivered through effective partnership between an established technology supplier and a host nation ready and willing to take the opportunity to build the capability. In doing so, the UAE became the first nation in over a generation to, quote, go nuclear for the first time. The same can, and I believe will, happen here in Africa too. And I don't think we'll have to wait as long as we did for another first-of-a-kind country to come on board. Which in essence is why I and others from the United States are here. We have a range of technologies and a huge amount of experience. We stand ready and willing to share that experience to help African nations establish and grow supply chains and workforces in their own backyards. We know that when we build nuclear plants, we don't just build reactors, We build the engines of economic growth. We build supply chains. We build capacity and capability, and we build cleaner, more sustainable futures. I look forward to playing my part to help build that future for countries here in Africa. And I commend each and every one of you for being here today and for playing your part as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Todd Apujano. I would want to invite up stage again Ambassador Bonnie Jenkins, the Undersecretary for Arms Control and International Security with the U.S. Department of State. He's going to give us a keynote on international security perspective. A round of applause for it.
Good morning once again. Esteemed delegates, distinguished colleagues and friends. It's an honor to address you today at the U.S. African Nuclear Energy Summit here in Nairobi. I want to give special thanks to the U.S. Department of Energy, Kenya's Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, and Kenya's Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, NUPIA, for hosting this really important event. This summit represents a crucial moment in the discourse on energy and sustainable development. We are gathered to discuss not only the present state, but the promising future of nuclear energy in Africa and its profound implications for jump-starting economic advancement and job creation. As we look forward to the future, one thing is abundantly clear. Reliable energy access is fundamental to progress. Our world is increasingly driven by emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, and digital transformation, all of which are heavily dependent on a stable and consistent energy supply. The promise of these technologies can only be fully realized if we address the challenge of reliable energy access. It is also important that new energy come from clean energy sources as we all work to address global climate change. As we've been saying both yesterday and today, nuclear energy stands out as a transformative force that can catalyze economic development across Africa. It offers a level of reliability and efficiency that other clean technologies cannot always match. Renewable sources are generally intermittent, while nuclear power provides a stable and continuous supply of not only electricity, but also high-temperature heat, which are critical for industrial processes and the efficient production of clean fuels for the future, like hydrogen and ammonia. The best solution is a mix of different clean energy sources. Together, renewables and nuclear energy offer the best path forward for the clean energy transition. The U.S. is at the forefront of developing new nuclear and nuclear-related technologies that hold great promise for addressing challenges faced by many regions in Africa. For example, U.S. SMRs are flexible, scalable reactors that can be deployed in various settings, including off-grid, remote regions, and locations with limited water access. They offer solutions to providing reliable electricity where traditional large reactors may not be feasible and have lower capital costs. Our SMRs also incorporate advanced safety, security, and non-proliferation features, including designs to withstand extreme weather and seismic events, and can be tailored to match the specific needs of a country's power grid with the ability to scale up as needed. Importantly, our SMRs can play a critical role in decarbonizing non-electric sectors. They can power heavy industries, enhance fertilizer production, provide clean fuels for shipping, and support mineral mining and refining processes. Technologies under development can use nuclear power to desalinate seawater, addressing the critical need for clean potable water in water-scarce regions. U.S. advanced reactor technologies build on more than 65 years of U.S. innovation and expertise in nuclear energy. The United States upholds the highest nuclear safety, security, and non-proliferation standards, and we take pride in the fact that our nuclear cooperation and technologies reflect these priorities. The United States is making tremendous efforts to increase access to these clean technologies here in Africa. This summit is testament to that. The fact that this summit includes participation from the White House, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the Department of State, the Department of Energy, the National Nuclear Security Administration, the national laboratories, and from across U.S. industry, as well as our non-governmental organizations, demonstrates the deep commitment from across the entire U.S. nuclear sector to ensuring that Africa has the tools it needs to access to the latest nuclear technologies to support sustainability goals. Let me provide one example of ways that the U.S. government is supporting that commitment. As I mentioned a bit yesterday, at the Department of State, we are supporting the responsible development and deployment of nuclear technology through a foundational infrastructure for responsible use of small modular reactor technology, or the FIRST program. FIRST is assisting nearly 50 countries around the world, including those in Africa, who are interested in the potential for SMRs to meet their clean energy needs, consistent with the highest nuclear safety, security, and non-proliferation standards. The United States implements the FIRST program together with contributing partners, as I said earlier yesterday, from Canada, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the United Kingdom. As a whole of nuclear sector capacity building program, FIRST also benefits from deep technical contributions provided by the Department of Energy, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the National Nuclear Security Administration, our national laboratories, and many other academic, industrial, intergovernmental, and governmental partners. Kenya was one of the first countries in the world and the first country in Africa to join the FIRST program in 2020. Since the partnership launched, FIRST has worked with NUPIA, the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority, and other Kenyan partners to deliver nearly $1 million in capacity building assistance for Kenya. Topics with which we have collaborated on the FIRST include stakeholder engagement, site characterization and assessment, financing, SMR technology assessment and selection, regulatory development and licensing, and more. FIRST is working closely with our Kenyan partners to plan many more such engagements, including university-to-university partnerships and training programs so Kenya can develop a localized nuclear workforce. I'm excited to announce that FIRST will also co-host the next FIRST Sub-Saharan Africa Regional SMR Capacity Building Workshop with a partner in the country in this region next year. So I thank to Kenya for being steadfast partners and regional leaders and for prioritizing nuclear safety, security, and non-proliferation from the outset in your nuclear energy planning process. Ghana is another strong FIRST partner in Africa. Since joining FIRST in 2022, Ghana has become a regional leader in its momentum towards the deployment of small modular reactor technology. With support from FIRST, Ghana is poised to become a regional SMR training hub under an exciting project we are implementing through the International Science and Technology Center. Under that program, FIRST is providing a NuScale SMR simulator to Ghana, establishing a nuclear welding certification program, and assisting academic institutions with curriculum development. The SMR training hub in Accra will be a viable workforce development and capacity building resource for African partners across the continent. Today's exciting signature of a memorandum of agreement between Nuclear Power Ghana and Regnum related to cooperation using NuScale technology builds on this initiative. We look forward to doing much more together with Ghana to build a capable civil nuclear energy workforce for the country and region. I am also pleased to see colleagues from Nigeria, Rwanda, Namibia, and South Africa here. The FIRST program has already begun to engage you on a regional basis, and we look to deepen our cooperation with you. And our friends from Morocco and Tunisia, while FIRST has only just recently launched its regional capacity building activities in North African and Middle East partners, we hope to engage further with you as well. Through FIRST, we aim to empower African nations with the tools and knowledge necessary to leverage SMRs for sustainable development while upholding the highest standards of safety, security, and non-proliferation. Africa stands at a unique juncture, as we've heard, where it can leapfrog traditional energy development paths. By embracing nuclear energy, particularly through innovative technologies like SMRs, African nations have the opportunity to be first movers in developing a robust and advanced energy infrastructure. This proactive approach will not only meet current energy needs, but also set the stage for future technological and economic advancements. However, in pursuing nuclear energy, careful consideration is essential. Choosing the right partner. Selecting a supplier for nuclear technology involves establishing a long-term relationship that spans 50 to 100 years. It is crucial to choose a partner you trust, one who is committed to upholding the highest standards of safety, security, and non-proliferation. Nuclear energy programs are expensive and long-term projects that have been used by some to gain influence or increasing debt traps, or creating debt traps. Choosing a trustworthy partner is key. Second, upholding standards. Adhering to rigorous international safety and security standards is paramount. We must ensure that all nuclear activities are conducted with the utmost care to protect people and the environment. A nuclear accident anywhere is a nuclear accident everywhere. And transparency regarding these standards is important in building confidence among your stakeholders and the public. Third, enabling localization. Partnering with suppliers who have experience with and a strong track record for localizing the project and job creation. This is an opportunity for countries to not just benefit from the energy, but also to become a part of the supply chain, contributing to the broader economic growth of the region. Many suppliers do not have a strong track record of localizing their projects. And fourth, owning the program. It is crucial that African nations take ownership of their nuclear programs and not pass on this responsibility to supplier countries. This involves building local expertise, managing operations, and having an independent and well-resourced nuclear regulator to ensure that the benefits of nuclear energy are fully realized under the highest standards in the continent. So in conclusion, the U.S. is eager to be a partner in Africa's nuclear energy journey. We offer our expertise, technology, and commitment to safety and sustainability. Through initiatives like FIRST and other collaborations, we are dedicated to supporting Africa in realizing the full potential of nuclear energy. Together, we can build a foundation for a brighter, more sustainable tomorrow, and I look forward to doing that with you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'd like to, at this point, and in fact I do it with a lot of privilege, to invite the Principal Secretary of the Kenya Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, Alex Wachira, to come open the summit for us. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. Indeed, it has been a very good morning, and we have been given a lot of insights, and that is what I was looking forward to. And one gentleman, William Mark Wood, that's the name? At least I got it right. Got me thinking, and I put some few notes as I was sitting there. And before I even make my remarks, first of all, I want to welcome him to Kenya. And secondly, I bring greetings from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, who was not able to join us on Tuesday. And I also bring greetings from the Prime Cabinet Secretary. That is, if you look at your program, you'll see that your program reads Musalia Mudavadi to speak on this forum and open. And so therefore, I also bring greetings from him. William, when you pointed to Winnie, I do want to agree with you. And I've noted that you have the ability to spot talent, because if you are the one who spotted talent in Alicia Duncan, we have worked very well together and did host the Kenyan and Ghanaian delegation last year in the US Africa Nuclear Summit. And today, we have walked the journey, and today we're in the second US Africa Nuclear Summit, where we are deliberating, and we have seen Ghana, and congratulations Ghana. I cannot see the Ghanaian team. You asked several questions, why Africa? And I feel that I should have the right of reply. As the Principal Secretary responsible for the State Department for Energy, seated next to my colleague, my brother from Tanzania, the Minister for Energy. And one of the things I want to assure you is Africa, and let me give first the example of Kenya. This year alone, we have committed about $320 million to electrify and do what we call last mile connectivity. And we do have an aspiration that in the next couple of years, by the year 2030, Kenya should be 100% connected to electricity. If you look at the resources that we're using to build transmission lines, because unlike mobile telephone, technology has not given us a way of generating and disseminating power that is wireless. You still have to do transmission lines. If you look at what we are doing for transmission lines, with my brother again, and allow me to use you as an example, we have already completed the Kenya-Tanzania interconnector, a 400 kV Kenya-Tanzania interconnector. That deserves a round of applause. We are already connected with Ethiopia. If you look at the grid, our grid is 93% green, renewable energy. The same with most of the African countries. However, Africa is slightly disadvantaged. That despite the contribution, the least contribution in terms of carbon emissions, it has suffered the most in terms of climate change because of carbon emissions done by others. But we have said in Africa, we are not going to lament. We are going to lead the world in terms of providing the world with green energy. And one of the sources of green energy, ladies and gentlemen, is nuclear energy. And that is why we are in Nairobi today. And I do appreciate the partnership that we have with the US. Indeed, you have supported us. And there is a great African proverb that does tell us that if you want to walk fast, you walk alone. But if you want to walk for a longer distance, you walk with others. Today's summit is a testament to that African proverb, because that is why we are here across Africa. Because I can see Tunisia, Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, Uganda, across Africa, South Africa, so that we work together. Then with the help of the US, and I do want to appreciate the partnership that we have had with the IEA and Dr. Shaukat Abdulrazak. Thank you very much. And when you go back to Vienna, give our regards. And we are hoping to see you in the General Council the next 2 weeks. And I'm also hoping to see most of the faces in the GC when we go there and deliberate the issues. Let me just speak, you mentioned something to do with political stability. Indeed, in the 54 African countries that we do have, just a few are having small issues. But it's also important to note that this is a journey that we have had for the last 60 years. If you look at the developed world, it's a journey that has been done over 200 years. And so therefore sometimes we may judge ourselves so harshly, but a child is never born and runs on the same day. There has to be cumulative milestones that child does achieve. And that is what Africa is working towards. At least I can speak on behalf of several African countries and speak about 3 Ps only. Because I had a speech, I was supposed to read the speech on behalf of the President and the Prime Minister. It was combined, but I'll not do so because I already read another speech. We need to speak about 3 Ps, ladies and gentlemen who are assembled here, who are decision makers in our respective countries. Number 1 is patriotism. Without patriotism, what we are talking about as nuclear energy, we cannot achieve it. Let us make deliberate decisions, because we cannot talk about industrialization without talking about the cost of power and having a proper baseload. And for me, from where I sit, at least for the Kenyan perspective, we do currently have one good baseload, we call it geothermal. Half of our energy that we are enjoying right now comes from geothermal. But we are alive to the fact that we cannot have industrialization and sustainable development without nuclear energy. And that is why we are on the forefront, partnering with good partners so that we can have our first nuclear power plant by the year 2034. I think that deserves a round of applause. The second key, after we bring on board patriotism, is peace and prosperity. Because when you bring patriotism and you have an ingredient of political peace, then you can be able to bring on board with now renewable energy and baseload, you can bring on board prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to keep you for long. I do have other engagements, but I want to appreciate the local partners that we have, the guests, because you can imagine if we prepared all this, with all these seating capacities, and then you fail to come, it would have been another achievement. So from the bottom of the Kenyan heart and the organizers, I say thank you. And so you will say, asante. So we want to appreciate the partners who have helped us and you yourself. So please clap for yourself for coming for this conference. And last but not least, I want to ask you to kindly attend after the conference to tour around Kenya. We have a very beautiful landscape. When you go to the north, close to Lake Turkana, that's where we have the Africa's biggest wind farm, Lake Turkana wind farm, 310 megawatts. When you go south, you are able to get the savanna grasslands in the Masai Mara. And make sure that you cross over, because my brother is here. When you cross over, you cross to Serengeti, that is Tanzania. So my brother will pardon you for crossing over to the other side. Then you come back. Then you can be able. Then you can also be able to tour to the coast. We do have very nice sandy beaches. But most important is when you look at the books of history, the oldest fossil was found in Lake Turkana. The oldest human skull was found in Lake Turkana. What does that mean? It means that the cradle of mankind is seated here. And so therefore, I welcome you home. Ladies and gentlemen, with those few remarks, I have the pleasure of opening the US-Africa Nuclear Energy Summit. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Right, thank you very much, Principal Secretary, for the invitation. And I'm hoping that Alicia doesn't mean we're extending the summit so that we can tour. We're looking forward to that. All right, so we have a convention here where we give out presents to all the speakers. So I want you to stay, and then we're going to hand over your present to you. I'm going to invite Dr. Lassina Zerbo, the Presidential Advisor to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, to come help with the presentation to the Principal Secretary. And I'll kindly ask you to yes, so let's capture that. Thank you very much. Next, I want to invite Justice Wabuyabo, the CEO of Nupia, to come help with the next set of presentations. A round of applause to him, please. And as he makes his way, I want to invite Honorable Collins Adumako Mensah, the Deputy Energy Minister for Ghana, to come receive his gift. All right. Otherwise, we have yes, the Chief Director of the Energy Ministry to receive it on his behalf. A round of applause, please. I'd like you to make a second presentation for me. Thank you very much, Wilmina. Second presentation to Dr. Doto Mashaka Biteko, Tanzania's Deputy Prime Minister. All right, thank you. Now we're going to have all the African ministers that are present. I want you to kindly come up here for a group photo. To all the African ministers, yeah. Please come up stage. And then Alicia, please join. All right, so for the rest of us, apart from the front row, we're on coffee break. So you can take the coffee break. We're taking the photos for now. Of course, you're free to observe, but otherwise, coffee is waiting for you. All right, please stay. We have. I'm going to add a few more people to join. So, to the African ministers, we want the U.S. delegation. The U.S. delegation should please come up.